On June 19th, 1865, Union General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, with more than 2,000 Union troops. He publicly read General Order Number 3, which began, "The people of Texas are informed that, in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free." 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation had gone into effect, the last slaves, those in the westernmost states, were told that they were finally free. On that day, the people celebrated, and a new Independence Day was born, June 19th, or Juneteenth. In the years that followed, African American communities celebrated the day with picnics, parades, and parties. Today, 46 states plus the District of Columbia have declared Juneteenth a holiday or a day of recognition, and Juneteenth celebrations are still held all over the country. This may be news to you. It was to me. I'd never heard of Juneteenth before I heard a story on NPR this week. It's been celebrated in African American communities for 150 years, but has never gained wider attention. Understandably, but regrettably, it is as if white America would rather just forget the holiday and the chapter of history it represents. But this week, Congress observed the holiday in a new and controversial way by discussing reparations for African Americans for the first time in over 100 years. H.R. 40, introduced by Representative Sheila Jackson Lee of Texas, would create a commission to develop proposals to address the lingering effects of slavery and consider a national apology for the harm it has caused. The resolution carries the number 40 in reference to the 40 acres and a mule that were promised after the Civil War to freed slaves as compensation for their servitude. After President Lincoln was assassinated and Andrew Johnson took office, he rescinded the order, and the promise went unfulfilled. Even though H.R. 40 has little chance of passing the Senate and becoming law, its very introduction and discussion is an important step towards acknowledging the true and ongoing costs of slavery in this country. Reverend Doris Sherman, an 88-year-old woman who woke before dawn on Wednesday to take the train from Philadelphia to Washington to attend the hearing, said, "We don't want that mule now. We don't want that 40 acres. We are asking for remembrance. Remember the struggle, remember the injustice, and remember the now." William Faulkner famously wrote, "The past is never dead. It isn't even past." As those who testified at the hearing on Wednesday reminded us, the effects of slavery are alive and well in this country. The writer Ta-Nehisi Coates said, "What they know, what this committee must know, is that while emancipation deadbolted the door against the bandits of America, Jim Crow wedged the windows wide open. It was 150 years ago, and it was right now. The typical black family in this country has 1/10 the wealth of the typical white family. Black women die in childbirth at 4 times the rate of white women. And there is, of course, the shame of this land of the free boasting the largest prison population on the planet, of which the descendants of the enslaved make up the largest share." As the Congresspeople and witnesses noted on Wednesday, grappling with our history cannot erase the sins of the past, but it can give us the chance to right the wrongs of right now. If we as a Jewish community want to be part of this process of recognition, reconciliation, and yes, reparation, we have a powerful example from our own tradition to help guide us. The Jewish people know something about remembering and grappling with the past. And if there's one event that the Jewish community remembers above all others, it is our own liberation from slavery. Yetziat Mitzrayim, the exodus from Egypt, is recounted and referred to countless times in the Bible and in the liturgy. The first of the 10 Commandments declares, "I, the Eternal, am your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. The end of the V'ahavta declares, I, the Eternal, am your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. We remember the Exodus in the morning and in the evening, on weekdays, on Shabbat, and on holidays. The Torah commands that we observe Passover in order that you may remember the day you left Egypt all the days of your life. And the sages expanded on this verse, saying, the days of your life refers to the days. All the days of your life refers to the nights. And they also say the days of your life refers to this world. All the days of your life includes the days of the Messiah. We are called upon to remember the Exodus every day and every night in this world and even in the next, because our liberation from slavery is the defining experience of the Jewish people. It is an experience that echoes through our history and informs how we see ourselves and how we live every day. As Rabbi Nachum Mord-Lev suggests, the prophets of the Hebrew Bible reconceptualize the Exodus from an event in the past to an ever-present process, an ongoing journey, a liberation journey with God. He continues, on a societal level, the awareness of an ongoing exodus through time places liberation work at the center of the human vocation. The prophet's understanding that the exodus must take place in every generation can be heard in our day as a moral imperative to counter racism, sexism, homophobia, xenophobia, and related oppressions, an imperative to work for a society in which all people can flourish. Jews aren't the victims or the heroes of the shameful story of slavery in this country. But our own liberation narrative compels us to be witnesses to that story. We can be witnesses to supporting efforts to shine a light on that history. We can be witnesses by being honest about our own ancestors' roles in America's slave trade. And we can be witnesses by doing everything we can to rectify the wrongs that are still being perpetrated because of slavery's legacy. That you may remember the day you left Egypt all the days of your life. The past is never dead. It isn't even past.